All right, we're going to go and finish Unit 0, Lesson 1, page 3. Let's talk about some decimals. We're going to read and write decimal numbers, converting decimals to fractions and fractions back to decimals. So you can write the same number in many different forms, and we really need to know how to go from one form back to the other and back to the other, because you never know what you're going to need. And it's very important to understand how to put your final answer when you work on something, because if you don't put it in the proper form, as in reduced fractions, rounded decimals, maybe they do want a mixed number, how to move back and forth, or if you have to put a mixed number into an equation, you need to know how to convert it back to something else. So let's work on the decimal part of this. So they're giving you an example right here that has a fraction or a ratio. This 16 over 3 right here can be called an improper fraction because the numerator, the number on top, is larger than the denominator on the bottom, the 3. It's also considered a fraction or a ratio or an improper fraction, okay? That is can be converted to a mixed number. 3 into, just a little review here, 3 into 16 goes 5 times with 1 left over. So that's where they get the 5 and the 1/3 as a mixed number. And then as a decimal, think about it, 3 went into that 5 times, so that's the whole number. Or you can just take the 5 from the whole number, and that goes on this side of the decimal. So this is the whole number part of a decimal, whole number part, okay? And then what's left is a repeating 3 in this case, because 1/3 is a repeating 3. 1 divided by 3 goes in 3 times. That gives you 1, and it'll keep giving you 1, so you're going to get a repeated 3. So another way to write that is the 3 with the bar over top. So 16 over 3, 5 and 1/3, and 5-point repeating 3 are 3 different ways to write the same exact number. They all represent, let me read right here, they all represent the same real rational number between positive integers 5 and 6. So you could find it on a number line between the positive integers 5 and 6, this one measurement or size of a number. So let's make sure we understand how to convert and use decimal notation here, okay? We have to be able to read and write numbers in written decimal notation, and the way you do that is to understand place values. The decimal system, our decimal system, is based on a base 10, so the value of each digit is based on its position within the number, okay? The decimal point separates the whole number part of the number from the fraction part of the number, and more of that is in your book on that page if you want to know. So this little chart has the word form of the decimal. This has the what's called the decimal form. Even if it's a whole number, 100, that's the decimal form. There is actually a decimal right here on to the right of all whole numbers. We don't typically write that down unless there are more to the number to the right. So if you have decimals, they're on the other side, okay? So the decimals are the fraction part of the number. So to the right are the fraction parts, to the left is the whole number part of a decimal, okay? So word form, decimal form, and then the fractional equivalent. So the whole number 100 is the same as 100 over 1. The whole number 10 is the same. It can be written as 10 over 1, okay? It also can be written, the decimal, as a decimal, is just 10, and as a word is 10, all right? And again, you don't typically see the decimal, which is actually there to the right, if you just have the whole number part by itself. So 1 is the same as 1 over 1 as a fraction, okay? But then when you start going to the fractional part of a decimal number, The first space, so if something said round to 1 decimal space, that would be 1/10. That's the first decimal space. 1/10 is literally 1/10, 1/10. All right. 1/100th, TH on the end, is the second decimal place, 1/100. And 1,000 is the third decimal place. So you can say 1,000th, or you can, that's how you would say this decimal right here is 1,000th. You would also say 1,000th. Okay? So decimal fraction word, 0.3 is the same as 3/10 because the 3 is in the first decimal place or the 10th place. So you would read that as 3/10. This right here, the 7, is in the 100th place, so it can be written as a fraction over 100, and you would call it in word form 7/100ths with a THS on the end. Okay, remember 700 would stop here. 7/100ths would have the THS on the end. All right, and then if a number is in the third decimal place to the right, that's the thousandths place. So this decimal number as a fraction is 1,000th, and that's how you would call it, 1,000ths. Okay? So if we have the number 130, so where do we put the and when we say this? See this number right here? Right here is how you say that. 132 and 524 thousandths. So the and is actually where the decimal goes. So I think, myself included, I have a habit of throwing an extra and kind of in here. I say 132. Well, that's not where the and goes, and that's not how you say it. So if you're writing out a check, it's 132 and 524 thousandths. Notice the decimal part is described as where the last number lands. So this 4 right here ends up in the thousandths place. So that's how we say that last part of that. Okay, the 5 is in the tenths place. So if something told you to round to the tenths place, you have to know where that is. So the fractional parts, tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place, is referred to rounding them to the decimal parts at the end. If you were told to round to the tens place or the hundreds place, it would just be 100 or 130. So this is the the fractional equivalent right here. 130, I still say and, 132 and 524 thousandths. That's how you say that. So you're basically, the word form is trying to say or describe what the fractional form looks like. So, excuse me. So right here it says the easiest way to read the decimal number is to read the decimal fraction part as a fraction. That's what I just said. Okay. There's more of it on that page if you want to look at those. Mixed numbers is a combination of a whole number and a fraction. This applies to the decimal as well. Read a mixed number, say the whole part, the word and then you say the decimal part or the number to the right of the decimal with the place value of the last digit. So that's why the word thousandths is in here, not tenths and hundredths. This number goes all the way to the thousandths, and that's what you refer to because that's on the bottom of the fraction. Okay? All right. So let's see. Where's the next page? There we go. Sorry about that. All right. So this number right here at the top of page 4 says 1,475 and 3,014 10,000ths. So I have to work in the word 10,000ths at the end because that's what 4 decimals is. When you go to statistics, if you're going there next, statistics typically uses 4-digit numbers for their probabilities. So they would probably say round to 4 decimal places, but that is the 10,000ths place. So make sure we understand that. So 1,000. So up here, the whole number part is 1,475. You could say that without the rest of it on there. Then put an and where the decimal goes. And then you would notice this whole thing right here is in the 10,000ths place. So 3,014 10,000. So that's a little tough. How about this fraction right here? It has 4 is the whole number, so the and is where the decimal goes. Then 379 thousandths tells you that it's over here. If this number right here ends in the third place, then this whole number can be put over 1,000 for a fractional form, okay? And then you can also use your calculator to find these. If you are turning fractions back into decimals, and for example, if you have 3 divided by 8, that's how you would say this fraction here. You could say 3/8, but it's also a division problem. Fractions are division problems. It's 3 per 8, so 3 divided by 8. So if you're used to doing things longhand, this is this way, right? 3. So you said 3 divided by 8. This is how you put longhand, 3 divided by 8. So you need to use that decimal here, the decimal here, and what, 24? So that's a 3. That gives you 6. Sorry, I'm kind of messing this up. I just wasn't planning on doing this part. Bring another 0 down, and that's what, 56 because it's 7. But anyway, that's how you do it longhand. I mean, that's what calculators are for. So I have no problem on the test. For me, talk to your instructor if you're watching this video for another class. I don't need you to do this. I need you to tell me that maybe you're doing this in your calculator. If you have to pick up your calculator and you touch buttons on it, write down for me what you're doing, and that shows your work, even if you are using a calculator, okay? So you're still trying to hit the right buttons on your calculator and be accurate about it. But you're going to see, you're going to come up with that fractional decimal there of, how would you say that? That is 375 1,000ths. Okay, because that would be as a fraction, that's 375 1,000ths. Okay, all right, so that's what 3/8 turns into. 1/3, we did that. That gives you a repeating 3. If you're given a mixed number, remember the whole part of the front of the mixed number is the whole part of the decimal number, and then you have 1 divided by 4. 1 divided by 4. So you can put that in your calculator. That'll give you the quarter. So 2 25 hundredths. Okay. All right. So then the most important thing is rounding. Sorry, I'm kind of making a mess of this page here. Get that out of there. All right. So rounding is a very important thing for every math class going forward here, and especially this one. Rounding decimals is a big thing in statistics, so we want to make sure we understand how that works. Numbers are rounded to the given place value. You are told where to round it. Sometimes in my statistics class, if I don't tell you where to round things, I'll say, you get to pick, you just have to round correctly. So you decide where you're rounding it, but then you have to round correctly. So I like the saying right here, 5 and above, give it a shove, 4 and below, let it go. So depending on the place value you're looking for, you need to round it given the number you have to the right of it. So let's look at this one here. You can read all that in there when you want. So right here it says I have this decimal, 7 and 354 thousandths, and it says round to the nearest tenth. Well, where's 10? 10 is where the 3 is right there. So that means we're looking at the 5 and the saying 5 and above, give it a shove. That means we're shoving up the 3 to a 4. So rounding it there, you should have nothing left, no number left to the right of it. There should be nothing there if you're rounding to the space they want. Okay, so here's the same number again, and it says round to the 100th. So if you're rounding to the hundredth, you want to have 2 decimals left. So we're looking at the hundredths, which is the 5, and the one to the right of it is a 4. So 4 and below, let it go. That means we don't round up the 5. We don't make it a 6. We just drop the 4 off the end. Okay, so number 3 here, it says round to the nearest hundred. Not hundredths, but hundreds. So hundreds is right there. So we look at the 9, and that means round it up to 1300 is that one. This one says hundredths. So that's way over, that 3 is at hundredths. So 1294.6, and then we look and see to the right of the 3 is a 7. So that's above a 5. So we want to round the 3 to a 4. This one, let's see, round to the nearest whole number. Whole number is right there. So that means we're looking at this 3, and we can see that it's less than 5. So the nearest whole number would just be lopping off the decimal part. Nearest thousandth. Let's see, that's 3 places, 3 decimal places. So 127.35. And then there's a 9 to the right, so that would be 5.5. And let's see, this one says to the nearest dollar. Dollar would be the same as a whole number. So that is also 127. And then to the nearest cent would be the second decimal place. So 127.35, because that's a 4, and we're not going to round up the 5. Okay? I know I'm going fast, but you can always rewind this tape again. I was doing the practices to make sure they worked. Let me go through them again really quick. Oop. All right. So let's see. It says this is a mixed number. Remember, this 7 is the whole part. And this would be 43/100ths. So let's see, as a mixed number, that's 7 and, oh, that doesn't reduce. Oh, I'm done. Okay. Oops. Yes, we're going to reduce fractions soon. So that's just writing as a mixed number, because that 3 ends in the hundred spots, or 2 decimal places. So it's 43/100. All right. Number 2 says, what is the place value of the 4? Let's see, the 4, that's in the tenths place. Oops, tenths place. Sorry, let me get my key out so make sure I'm not. All right, number 3 says round to the nearest tenths. Well, that's there, so 173.3, because we look at the 6 and round the 2 up. Write out in words. All right, 5 and... because that's where the decimal is. That's a period, that's a decimal, so be careful of that. 5 and 46. Where does that end? That's hundredths. Hundredths. So put that D in there and then THS. Okay. Sorry for the handwriting. Write out the words, 7 and... Okay, this ends in the thousandths place, but this is 900 twelfths. How do you spell twelfths? Twelfths. FTH. Twelfths. 12 thousandths. Thousandths. 12 thousandths. Another spelled, yeah. Okay, 7 and 912 thousandths. Jeez. All right, write the number 51 and 5/10. 51 and 5/10. Okay. Write out the number 2011. 2011 and 426 thousandths. So that ends up in the third decimal place over. Right, 1/5 is a decimal. Put it in your calculator. 1 divided by 5. Just write that down. Tell me what you did. That should give you your 0.2. Sorry. You can also, if you want to do it by hand, feel free to do it by hand. Be careful with all the little decimals here. So that's 0.2, okay? Right, 1770, let's see, 17 and 72 hundredths as a decimal. 17's the whole number part, and 72 hundredths. Right is a decimal, 7 and 2 hundredths. Right is a fraction. This is 343 thousandths. And the absolute value of a -2 is a 2. The opposite of a 2 is a -2, so clearly a +2 would be greater. Thank you.